Alright, let's see what it looks like. Here's that new nail weight mold I was working on. Should be nominally 1/8 ounce on the top and 1/16 ounce on the bottom. Alright, here we are getting ready to test the new nail weight mold. It's nothing special, it's just nail weights. But it's a brand new mold for me. Hopefully you get a good view of that there. Alright. A lot of times I test lead casting molds like this. Okay, something's going on there. Looks like I didn't get the burr cleaned out or something. Oh no, there was just something fell in there here from the lead bench. Okay. Anyway, a lot of times I test lead casting molds like this. I don't put the handles on them, I don't engrave them, I just put the alignment pins in them and use a set of deep throat or long jaw, I don't know what they're called, locking pliers. I expect these will probably only fill well if you do what I call pressure casting. That's where you put the nozzle right up, or the mold right up against the nozzle of a bottom pour pot. But I'm sure people will experiment with it and tell me if they can get it to pour other ways. I'm just thinking because it's so small that I'm turning it around to give me a little bit more clearance room under the nozzle. I'm thinking because it's so small and has such small features, it may just need that to fill properly. But this is the very first time, I don't know why I held it on there so long, that's a tiny little cavity. And the last cavity. As low a volume of lead as that is, it's probably not even going to be that hot. And it isn't. Alright. Well, it feels like there's a lot of lead surface area in there. And by golly, they look pretty darn good. That one, most all of the, let's see, that, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 2 that don't look like they filled all the way to the point there. And I got 1 that looks like it didn't fill all of the way to the point there. And that was a cold mold. I literally just took this out of the sink and blew it off a few minutes ago from cleaning it off. Came off the machine less than 20 minutes ago. Alright, that one's not perfect. So looks like 3 out of 12. Well, that one's usable, but it didn't pour all the way to the point. But we'll keep that one. Alright, well that was 3 out of 12 were no good, which if it was for personal use, that'd be good enough for me. But let's see now that it's warmed up a little bit if we can get 12 out of 12. I mean, the mold warms up just from shooting it. Alright, here we go. That's those 6. Let's see this. We can get the 6 on the other side. The whole thing about doing what I'm doing, I call it pressure casting. Some people may have other names for it, is the weight of the lead in the pot pushes down on the lead in the mold and helps it to fill out better. Yep, the mold is definitely warmed up a little bit more. And let's see what we got. Oh. All those flat, straight surfaces on the back of the barbs definitely gives it some surface tension. I'll definitely like opening this better. All right. One of those still didn't fill, but all of those did. And all of these filled good. Nope, got one here that didn't fill. So that's 2 bad ones out of 12. Now I'm going to pull the other trick. It almost always fixes lead casting molds. I am going to dust them with talcum powder. I have been told that the I don't know where my bottle of powder went. I have been told that the cornstarch that's replaced talc in baby powder works just as good for this, but I still have some original talcum baby powder, so that's what I use. I'm probably overdoing it with the talc. I'm probably going to get flashing with this much. And my experience has been when I powder a mold, I don't have to powder it every single time, only like every third or fourth time. But your mileage may vary. Okay. Of course, before this mold goes out to a customer, it'll get drilled for hinge pins and it'll get handles, which will make opening it and handling it and pouring it a lot easier. I just want to get it tested. Let's grab this end. I just want to get it tested before I go to all that effort in case I have to make some modifications. Okay. The one that didn't fill may have been just because I didn't get it up against the nozzle well, but oh, like that. That's one of the dangers of pressure casting. If you don't get it seated right, you can get lead spraying out like that, so be careful. I should be wearing gloves and long sleeves to do this. All right. The talc will also help it demold a little bit easier, but that's not the purpose for using it. What the talc does is it breaks up the surface tension of the lead and allows it to pour easier. Well, those two look good. And I still got one that didn't pour right. I don't know what's going on with that one. All the rest of them came out perfect. I made very, very fine vents on this because of the small size of these and the limited space. But I could go back and make the vents a little bit deeper. Every one of them filled except that one that time. Now the machine's still set up exactly like this mold came off of it. I didn't power it down or anything. Okay. All right, let's just fill that. I'm going to go ahead and do them all again. I don't really fish nail weights. Oh, that one I didn't get seated properly. But it might not hurt to have a selection of them in my to-go box, just because. lot of the lead that I use, well, most of the lead I use is just for testing molds before I offer them for sale. Alright, let's see if we're still recording. Hey, we're still recording. Last couple of times sorry about the air compressor in the background. Last couple of times I've used that camera, it's shut off in the middle of a recording on me. Alright. And that first one didn't fill again. I'm going to have to look at that. There's got to be something wrong with that mold. Almost filled. You know, you could use it, but, you know, that's not something you'd want to sell. And I had two others that didn't fill. Alright, I think I'm going to go put it back on the machine and cut the vents a little bit deeper, see if that makes a difference. Here, let's clip a couple of those. Well, come on, where'd my flush cutters go? Got too much junk back here. I'm doing too many different things. Well, I would much rather use flush cutters to do this. But basically, just put that up against the base of the cone. And we have two nail weights right there. And I'm going back to the machine to make the molds on this plate a little deeper. Or the vents, I don't know what I just said. Okay, here we are back at the machine. When I blow it off, you can tell me if you can see any difference. What I did, let's see here, so I made all of the individual feature vents about 1/1000th of an inch deeper, and then I cut a 10/1000th deep, what I call a dump vent, where some of the vents come together and it's fairly close to the point of each cavity. Now it's back to the, well, first I got to clean this up, and then it's back to the back to test it again. Okay, we're back. In case you missed it, in the other part, I cut all of the individual feature vents 1/1000th of an inch deeper, and then making them almost 3/1000ths deep. And then I cut an individual dump vent that's 10/1000ths deep, not from the point of the mold or the cavity, because that would definitely flash, but fairly close to it. So hopefully the air can escape a little faster and a little easier, and it'll pour better. We'll try it once cold, just like I just took it off the mold, because I just had to wash it down again, just like I just took it off the machine and washed it down. And then if we need to, we'll try it again with talcum powder. And as long as we can get a consistent recipe that works 12 out of 12 most of the time, it'll be ready to go. Oh, didn't get it square on the nozzle. That's important for safety, get it square on the nozzle. Okay. let's open it up and see what we got. Dang it! That first one still didn't fill. All of the rest of them, oh nope, I got a bad fill on this one in the middle too. We got 2 that didn't fill. And could be 3 that didn't fill properly. Could be some moisture still in the mold was caused it after coming off the machine and then getting washed off. But this one's not perfect either. Wow, that's pretty bad. Well, you guys aren't going to want to buy any molds from me after seeing that one's good. After seeing this. All right, well, it's warmed up. And it should be dried out after running molten lead through it. So let's get a little talcum powder and dust it. It may not require talc to fill properly, but this is kind of my cheat code. This makes more molds work probably than any other trick except, you know, preheating. And this one probably still has some talc in it, but let's dust it anyway. And you don't have, I'm being stingy with my talcum powder, so I don't have to buy another container, but you don't have to be this stingy with it. But you do have to blow off or the excess, otherwise you'd get little clumps of powder that could, you know, prevent your mold from filling. Alright. You don't have to kill this, just snug it gently. That's just to keep it from accidentally opening up on you. Let's make that a little tighter, just so that I don't have to mess around with it as much. There we go. Alright. Oh. If you're pressure casting, like I said before, make sure that you have it firmly seated against the nozzle, otherwise it can spray lead out in odd directions and injure you. And you should definitely be wearing gloves and long sleeves when you're doing this. If you're just gravity casting where the lead is free falling into the mold, which I'm sure this one would not work if you did that, the lead spraying out at you isn't as big a deal. But remember, in the first part of the video I mentioned that the pressure of the weight of the lead in the pot creates pressure on the lead in the mold. Well, that's also what causes it to spray out if you if you don't have it squarely seated against the nozzle. Oh, it's starting to get warm now. All right. And every single cavity filled. So at the very least it needs to be a little bit warmer, and it may need to be dusted with talcum powder. Every single one. The first one was the one we had a problem with every single casting before now. That one filled. One thing I'd suggest if you're using soft lead is you grab the sprue and you roll it out so you don't bend it. But if you're using hard lead, that may be less of an issue. I don't know if this mold will fill with hard lead either. I guess that's something you're going to have to find out. I tend to only use soft lead for everything unless hard lead is absolutely necessary for my own personal use. Anyway, look at that. That's a beautiful little nail weight. Let me go grab some flush cutters from the other part of the shop and I'll trim a few. Okay, let's trim up a few of these. Sorry about the camera movement. There we go. And see what they look like. I would say if you want the full weight, just put it right up against the bottom of the sprue and clip it off. Oop, right up against the bottom of the sprue, clip it off. The reason these are called flush cutters is because the cutting edge is ground perfectly flush with one side, so you get supposedly a square cut. It's not perfect, but it's, whoop, I want to do it this way. And if you want it to look more square, you'd cut it here right next to the first cone. And if you want a lighter one, say half the weight, you could cut it down here next to a cone all the way down there. Or you can just use your, whoop. Now these are about 1/8 of an ounce. It's going to vary a little bit. And these are about a 1/16 of an ounce. Let's cut a couple of those. The 1/16 ounce ones are the ones we had the most problems with pouring, but well, that's when I clipped off with the other cutter. But this time, with the mold a little warm and a light dusting of talcum powder, maybe other things will work, but talcum powder has worked the best for me for getting molds to fill well, especially ones with tiny features like these, of anything I've tried. Yeah, graphite can help a little bit, but it works in a different way. And candle smoke can work if you don't have anything but a candle, but even graphite's better than candle smoke. And talcum powder has been like the magic sauce. So let's grab a handful of these. There's some 1/16 ounces right there. And there's some 1/8 ounces right there. And, oh, there's a 1/16. And those are ready to go fishing. All right, I'm not going to spend any more time on a basic mold like this. So that's the way it's going to go out for sale, and I'll just add a note on the listings that it's best if the mold is hot, and you may need to use a little bit of talcum powder to make the lead flow better. Oh, and as you can see, we just cast that, and there's still plenty of talc on that. There's plenty of talc in the cavities, so you don't need to re-talc it every casting, like every 3 or 4 is plenty. Oh, I guess I should hold it up now. So can you see the difference? Can you see that the vents are deeper? Well, obviously you can see this one's deeper because it's 10,000ths deeper. But can you see that all of these are deeper? Probably, maybe not, but they're about 1,000th of an inch deeper than they were before.